Well, guys, welcome to another episode of VTEC Academy. You guessed it, you're about to get schooled. In the words of the inimitable Britney Spears, I did it again. I got a new project car. In fact, I have several new project cars. This particular one right here is a 2007 Honda Civic coupe. It's a base model, R18 powered, not K-series powered. Way back in 2005, actually 2006, Honda gave me a sedan and asked me to modify it for SEMA. The plan at the time was to K-swap it and turn it into a land speed car and go out and set some records. But Honda wanted the car back. Seems the lawyers didn't want us racing it or driving it on the street. So unfortunately, like my dreams, it was crushed and we never saw the car again. But I went out and bought not only this coupe with the R18, I also bought a hybrid sedan. Now, interestingly enough, the land speed car was based on the hybrid bodywork. I thought that bodywork was going to be a little bit more aerodynamic, and I thought it would make a really good land speed car. So, as you can see by the artwork here, it was based on that particular design, and the plan is actually to make that hybrid my daily driver for a little while, and then over the next few years, actually turn it into a land speed car and head back to Bonneville and see what it'll do. Anyway, one of the reasons I got this car is way back in 2006. Now it's 15 years later. I wanted to make K-swap mounts for that particular chassis. I mean, Honda probably sold 200,000 plus of these per year with the R18 for like 6 years. So these things are out there and they actually handle pretty good. They have independent rear suspension. Honda kind of sorted out the McPherson strut suspension that didn't work so well in the RSX and the EP3, but it's a really nice chassis and it's nice and big. This particular car, we're not going to actually put back on the road. We're actually just using it for prototyping. So the mounts I want to prototype in this are obviously K-series because that's the easy button. I'd also like to prototype mounts for the L15B7, the new Civic Si turbo motor, and I think it'll fit nicely the K20C engine. And what the heck, might as well do a J-series set of mounts as well. So we're here for part one of this conversion, and that's to figure out how to get a K20 in it, what kind of mount combination it's going to take. We've got stuff that's already on the shelf that'll do it, and see what it takes to get it running. So let's get the engine out. I want to apologize for the whining you're going to be hearing in the background. That's actually one of our CNC mills running. I'm actually here at Hasport today, and this is our season. This is when most of our work gets done. So this place is running hot and heavy. This is the mill we usually use for prototyping, so it's mostly quiet, although we're using it for production right now because we are so far behind. Anyway, apologize for the whining of the machine. Okay, I'm back by myself again. Time for the moment of truth. Let's get the motor the rest of the way out of the car. All right, one worthless R18 sitting on the ground.
Ouch.
Interestingly, there was two things I actually forgot to disconnect. One of them was on the power steering hose, there is a power steering pressure sensor. I actually forgot to disconnect that. And the other thing was the power steering return line for the reservoir. I forgot to do that as well. So that's the low pressure line that the power steering pump draws from the reservoir in order to get power steering fluid. Other than that, pretty straightforward. Kind of a pain in the ass, but I can remember pulling the K-Series out of the car a long time ago, and that too was a pain in the ass. One thing that's pretty interesting is this has hydraulic power steering, and the pump is on the back side of the motor, probably due to the fact that the nose is kind of short. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with the K20 engine that we put in, because normally this car runs electronic power steering with SI. Probably does the hybrid too, so I may look into the two, kind of compare the part numbers and see if I'm going to go look for a hybrid car to pull the power steering out of, or if I'm going to look for an SI to pull the power steering out of. Or I think initially what I'm going to do is just basically loop the lines on the manual rack and see how crappy it is to drive. Because if it's pretty undrivable, then obviously something's going to have to be done. And I think the solution is electronic power steering. Because I really don't think there's room for the power steering pump up front. But I'll check, because who knows? If it is, just make a couple of custom lines, and you could use a hydraulic power steering from, say, a TSX or an RSX in here just fine. But now it's time to get this thing off the lift, clean up the engine bay a little bit. It's pretty greasy in there, and then we will start mounting our K-Series in there and see if there's a combination of mounts that Hasport already has that'll actually work for this. Who knows? So the engine I'm using to try in the car, at least my dummy engine, is a Civic type R motor. This one is convenient. It's basically the same layout as what you would find in the K20 Z3. It's got the deep oil pan with the mount that goes on the back side of the oil pan. The transmission I have here is an 06 Civic transmission, essentially the same as an RSX. The only real difference is the shift mechanism and the gear ratios. But if you looked at an 05 RSX with this on front, it's the same transmission. So the mounts I just took out, and they're very, very similar to the mounts that come in the SI. The difference is the mount on the transmission side is tall. It's up on top of the frame rail, and that's so it fits both the automatic and the manual transmissions. The automatic transmissions are generally larger. On the Civic Si, since it's only manual, that one kind of wraps around the frame rail and sits quite a bit lower. What I'm going to do to start with is just see if our normal SI mounts will bolt in this and hold the engine straight and level like it should. I have a suspicion it will. Then the only real issue is the back side of the block. I don't know if the stock subframe will work, but if it doesn't, I have a 2006 SI subframe here as well, so let's try that out. We're going to be using these mounts. This is the FD stock mount. This is a passive side frame rail mount. It's instead of normally there's a torque mount stock on both the FD and on this base model Civic. This takes place as a torque mount, and then inside the bracket goes one of these Hasport mounts that we've been using on, gosh, countless cars over the years. Then on the driver's side, instead of this that mounts up on top of the frame rail, this one kind of droops over the frame rail and uses this transmission mount. So it go over the frame rail like that, and this mount sits in here like this. This mount is You know, if the bolt spacing is the same, it should bolt right on. The question is whether or not it's going to line, you know, have the engine line up square. Same thing with this. If this bolt spacing is the same as the stock mount here, we should be all good. So let's try it out. Got it. Okay, a few observations. The two bottom bolt holes, from what I can tell right now, they seem to be in the stock location that you would find them on an SI. I can actually go out and find an SI I have out, parked out with all the others to double check that, but it appears to me to be in the same place. But there are some differences. Because of the power steering, it looks like that's going to kind of be in the way. Also, the R18 is a smaller motor than the K, so I believe this mount must sit farther out into the engine bay. This, where the torque mount attaches, is sitting farther out. Hopefully it doesn't interfere with the head of the K series engine, although I imagine it'd be pretty easy to trim back. The other thing is the brace that goes to the frame rail. It seems a lot taller. So where we have our little ledge that it bolts onto, it's up too high. So what I think is going to happen, again, probably because the R18 is a shorter engine and not quite as wide as the K. But I'll take the SI one, bolt it in there, see if it works. If it's the right dimensions, probably just make kind of a steel version of that. But I am going to have to redo this bracing back to the torque mount. So that's all pretty easy. Just need to make a few accurate measurements and I can do that, no problem. But I feel like the two bottom bolt holes, the main bolt holes, that's locating the engine in the same place. Hopefully it's not farther back due to a smaller engine. So I'm going to try, actually let's take a look at the driver's side mount. Well, as you notice when I bolted it in, the two top bolt holes are spaced properly, so I think they're fine. What's missing is the bolt hole is usually down here lower on the frame rail. I have like a spacer that's resting on the frame rail there, but no bolt hole to bolt it to. This is where the other bolt hole is on this mount. Now, on the Fit and the ZFK, we only use these two bolt holes on the top, and we just kind of bend this bracket over so it's snug up against the frame rail. I may just do that because it's easier to do. But it looks like this is in the right position, once again, just like the passenger side mount is. So let's try sticking the motor in here with mounts and see what it looks like. Yeah, it's a 14 millimeter. Well, it's 5:15 quitting time. Thanks, AD, I appreciate the help. Looks like it fits with the stock mount. Just gonna have to make some chassis specific adjustments to it.
And this bracket is gonna be.
Yeah, I'll probably bring this forward, and then I can come around the power steering lines. But the deal is, the power steering is in the way of of what I want to do, but it may or may not remain power steering because I need to put a pump on here and see if it interferes with the hood. Because I mean, this is hydro power steering. The SI is actually electric power steering, but you know, if we can leave the hydro power steering on and somebody just needs to make a line, it'd be a lot cheaper than doing electronic power steering. So anyway, tomorrow we'll check the rear mount. Hey guys, it's a new day. We've got the 07 Civic back on the lift, and we're going to be working on the rear mount. The rear mount on these cars attaches to the oil pan. It does on the R18 and it does it on the K20. We're going to see what it's going to take to connect to that. What I have right here though, just to kind of get going, is the subframe. This is the stock subframe with the hydraulic power steering. And this is the SI subframe. I don't have any power steering for this particular one. I just have the subframe. This little sunbaked from sitting out in the sun since 2006 when I first got this thing. But a couple things I've noticed right off the bat. It looks like the rack might bolt in the same way, so I'm going to take the rack out of this particular one and bolt it in here and see if it fits. But I did notice that this, where the rear mount goes, is in a slightly different position. It's about 1/4 inch away from the two, and if you compare the rear mount that Hasport makes for both the R18 and the K20, the one for the K20 is actually shorter. So evidence, of course, that the engine is larger. So what we're going to be doing right now is start off with is we're going to bolt up the 2006 Civic SI subframe with the mount for that particular subframe, and that'll kind of confirm that the engine is in the correct place. If that mount lines up nice and straight and is the correct length, then we're pretty certain that the engine is in exactly the same place, and that kind of helps me proceed further with the mounts I want to build. After I do that, I'm going to go ahead and put in this subframe to check out and see what I might have to do in order to redesign a rear mount for this particular swap. I'm hoping it'll be something simple, like just making a new bracket that goes on the back of the oil pan. If that's the case, then that actually opens up some other possibilities as well. But let's get to it. Right, you have yeah. This is the mount we call, pardon the mill in the background. This is the mount we call the FTRR. This is the one that's built for this particular car. So see how it fits. Well, it lines up nice and straight, so feeling pretty good about this. So we know with the normal FD rear mount, it lines up nice and straight. And the engine sits in there like it should. So we have the engine in the right place, which helps me out quite a bit. What I'm actually going to be able to do is I'm going to be able to take the brackets we make for stock replacement for the R18 and the brackets we make for stock replacement for the SI, and I'm going to be able to overlay them as an assembly in SolidWorks, and from there I can then create a new bracket with the appropriate holes that'll work perfectly for the swap. Now the only other thing I have to determine is what happens when I put on the R18 subframe. That's next. I'm trying to put this up in here. I actually took one of the rear mounts that normally goes in this car and I exchanged the pin for the through bolt style one. It looks like it's just slightly too long. So first of all, I'm going to try this particular mount, which is actually shorter. See if the problem is it's too thick to go into this opening. So what may wind up being the solution actually is to make a shorter version of this bracket in steel. So it looks aligned pretty straight, which surprises me. So I think maybe the only difference was this bolt hole is slightly farther forward, which means this bracket needs to be a little bit shorter. It'll be interesting to see if I can get past this bolt head. I imagine possibly if I used a socket head cap screw, that might make it doable. But basically I'm going to need to make a thinner version of this. So perhaps what I might just do is go in and machine this to the correct thickness to go in here, and then what would happen is the new mount would be just a thinner version of this. Well, to the mill. Once again, pardon the mill in the background. Actually, I just went back there and shaved these two down, so now this is the right size to fit inside our subframe for our base Civic, and I just need to swap the urethane over and we'll try it in. Looks like our mount's just a touch short, so I'm going to have to take the subframe and then kind of, well, I'll probably just use ferro arm, CMM it, and figure out what the difference is between where this mounts and where it mounts on the SI. So it looks like I'm going to have to make a mount that's thin enough to fit in this, but a little bit shorter than the one we used for the FG. No big deal. I'll whip up a steel one just to check the fit, and if it all works out, we'll make them out of billet. Well guys, thanks for joining me on another episode of VTEC Academy. I hope you liked what you saw. If you did, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Anyway, it's Friday. It's about 4:30. I think I'm gonna go home and have a beer, and we'll get back to this probably Monday or Tuesday.